Maine and Mulberry, her town, is sponsored by Maureen Frazier, leading real estate agent for John Green and Company Realtors. With 15 years of real estate experience, Maureen understands what it takes to buy and sell homes in Collierville, Memphis, and across the Mid-South. Maureen moved to Collierville in 1995 and has since dedicated herself to her community. She'll do the same for you every day. Maureen Frazier, Real Estate Community Service. Visit soldwithmaureen.com to learn more. That's soldwithmaureen.com. Hi guys, it's Annabelle. Welcome to Maine and Mulberry, her town. Every Tuesday on Her Town, I'll sit down with women who are using their talents to impact their community, sharing candid conversations on relatable topics. Settle in and enjoy filling your cup by simply learning from these women thriving while ambitiously chasing dreams. Today's guest is Laurie Tucker. Laurie worked for 35 years at FedEx, serving as a primary champion of the brand and customer loyalty, positioning FedEx as one of the most respected and valued brands in the world. As Senior Vice President of Corporate Marketing, she was responsible for all aspects of retail and global brand management, and she also held roles in finance, logistics, and sales planning. A passionate advocate of personal development and here to share her story with us today is Laurie Tucker. Laurie, good morning. I'm so thrilled to have you on the show with us today.
I am thrilled to be here, Anna. Love getting to be a part of your show. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Absolutely. And I turned on the radio, of course, during my commute into the office this morning, and I heard an interesting quote that's really stuck with me since I heard it. And I actually looked it up as soon as I got here, and it was a quote from Maya Angelou, and she said something to the effect of, when you learn, teach, and when you get, give. And that really stuck with me this morning. And so I'm thinking, why don't we teach a little bit and give a little bit back this morning, Miss Laurie? What do you think?
I think that sounds perfect. And that sounds a little bit like the theme of my life. That's what I love to do, especially now in my sort of post-career years, is give back. That's what it's all about, really.
Awesome. Let's do it. Well, let me formally welcome you to the Her Town podcast, Miss Laurie.
I appreciate that. And I have enjoyed hearing your podcast already. I love this. I think I told you that I had actually dabbled a little bit in podcasts myself right after I retired from FedEx. And there's nothing more fun than getting to talk to successful women and learning about them and hearing more and then sharing that with others. So I really admire what you're doing.
No, I appreciate that so much. And I couldn't agree more. All right. So, Miss Laurie, tell us, if you will, kind of your background from school. What did you study, and did you work while you were in school?
Well, that was a long time ago, but yes, absolutely. It's funny, back in the days when I went to high school, a lot of kids were, looking forward to going to college and talking about different colleges they were going to. I always knew I was going to Memphis State University because that's where my mom had gone. And I always knew I was going to go. It was no question about going to college. So I graduated from high school at age 17 and went straight to college. I got a job working in my mother's office. And before you knew it, I had changed my idea about what I wanted to do or be 3 times. And suddenly I was in an accounting program at Memphis State.
Look
So
out.
accounting, people that know me laugh at that. They're like, accounting? So I got a degree in accounting, which it was all kind of part of God's plan, because about that time, FedEx was starting. Well, I'm sorry. Federal Express was
That's
started.
right.
And
That's
then back in
right.
1978, way back then, the company was 5 years old. Several of the folks that had worked with me in the same office had already gone there.
Okay.
And so they called me and said, come for an interview. I literally graduated from college and 2 weeks later was an employee of Federal Express. So
Wow. So right out of the gate here from school, you're here in Memphis and you land a pretty good job.
pretty good job. In fact, it was one of my fun stories is that I went in and, they said, well, how much money is it going to take to get you away from that company you work for? Well, I was making $800 a month and thought I was pretty rich. And so I jumped high with $1,000 a month. And they said, I'm sorry, this job starts at 1,075. So that was my first introduction to the real world. It was like, whoa. So yeah, those were the days. But
Oh,
yeah, I
yes.
thought I was really flush. It was a great job. I was an associate financial analyst, and
Okay.
it was the start of a dream career. It really was.
Wow. Okay, so we're starting out as a financial analyst. Kind of tell me some of those early responsibilities. What was that job position like?
My gosh, back in 1978, we were still doing a lot of things by hand that were quickly going to be done by computer. And
Sure.
so that was really my first job. I was doing a lot of sort of accounting type work and had ideas about everything. If I look back on what was one of my success sort of secrets of success
Hmm.
is no matter what job I was given, I tried to figure out how to make that job better or make it go away. If
Yeah.
I could eliminate it so that I could do something more interesting, for instance, this boring number counting, putting
Yeah.
numbers in the boxes.
Let's do it,
And
right?
so right off the bat, that's what I did. I right away said, couldn't we automate this? Couldn't we get somebody to write a computer program? So yeah, that was my
Efficiency.
initial job, was working in finance. I moved from there over to pricing, which got me into the sales side, which was much more my personality. And then
Okay.
from there, I got over to the technology side. What in the heck, And I will tell you this is a thing that I want to inspire, particularly young women. We
Hmm.
get into this sort of mode about what we know,
Mm,
and so I can only do what I know. Not true.
mm,
No, we can do so much more. And I never got a job. I
mhm.
never moved forward into a job that I knew how to do. How to get those jobs if I didn't know how to do them. I must have been pretty darn convincing that I would learn them and learn them fast. And
Yeah.
so I want to just say, from an encouraging word,
Mhm.
is when you are goal oriented and you're always sort of looking for that way to improve what you're doing, move
Yeah.
forward and don't hesitate to take on a new challenge. So like from pricing to IT, and then it was on. So
So
that's
be comfortable with the uncomfortable. Sounds like
oh,
is what we're
absolutely.
saying. Yeah.
And be flexible. A lot of times people aren't very flexible.
Mm,
They only want to do things that they know how to do. And
mm,
so I definitely encourage young women, don't just do what you are already comfortable with. Get out of that comfort zone.
mm. So tell me about kind of the coworkers that you're with. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the transportation industry seems to be a male dominated industry. Would you say that right?
You nailed that, and especially then. But it was fun. It was actually an interesting time. I was 21 when I started at FedEx, and Fred Smith was probably 28. We were all
Wow.
so young,
Young.
and people were coming from all over the country. That was another new thing for me, being a little Southern girl. Growing up in Memphis, I was suddenly exposed to people from all over the country. So it was a lot of fun, and I think there was a lot of openness to just do the job and do it well.
Okay.
And I'll tell you this, I never got hung up on being female.
Okay.
I've even gone so far as to say that I forgot that I was female, because I just saw myself as someone who needed to get the job done. And I
Yes, I'm
would
so
often
curious about that because I'm wondering here, how were you able to find your seat at the table? You know?
It's interesting. The answer to that is you take it. You
Yeah.
take the seat. So often we come into a conference room and the table's full of all these folks, and we think about the positions they're in and their titles and their levels. And so we go sort of hunker down in the corner and try not to be seen. No, I mean, obviously there's protocol and such. I'm not going to go take Fred Smith's chair. But on the other hand, and once I did accidentally take the chair wasn't supposed to take, that was a little embarrassing. But generally it was a matter of pulling up to the table. It was a matter of knowing that what I had to offer was going to be impactful, and I needed to be at the table in order to share it. Now, if I didn't think I had anything to share that day, I might take a seat in the back and get out my BlackBerry
There you go. There
and
you
get some
go.
work done. Yeah.
Oh,
And,
I love that. Kind of tell us about maybe before you started really taking your leadership positions, your bosses, what was the company kind of like? What was their philosophy, I guess, if you will?
well, of course, FedEx is known for having a people, service, profit philosophy.
Mm,
And it's a huge company now. It's hard to do everything that they used to do back then, but they've always tried to promote from within. They've always tried to provide career enhancement and career opportunities for those who wanted it. And, I'll say this, is I did move into management at age 26.
Mm,
And I think I was a director by about age 31 and a VP at age 34. So I was very fortunate to move up fast in the
mm,
company. Then I became a senior VP, maybe in my late 30s. It was interesting knowing that I was being supported by bosses, knowing that my bosses were always men. I always had male bosses for the most
mhm,
part, but they were really strong, good mentors.
mm.
And again, I think I had two children during all this.
Yeah,
This is another fun
yeah.
thing. When I was pregnant the first time, I was a director, and I did take the 3 months off that I wanted to
Mhm.
take off, but it was interesting, while I was gone, some of my team, they really stepped up and they really
Yeah.
grew while I was gone. Then later I was the VP when I had my second child, and I was the first VP to ever have a baby.
Wow.
So it was sort of funny. I don't think they quite knew how to
Yeah.
treat me, but it was so fantastic because I felt a little bit like I was, pushing the envelope and being a little bit of a pioneer. So it was always fun to be one that was kind of cutting the trail for the other women in the company.
Oh, absolutely. And two, we're talking about these ages. You're young moving up in the company with these different responsibilities and changing titles. So we talked about being a financial analyst there and then managing and pricing. But going into those real stronger leadership positions, the director and then VP, kind of share with us a little bit about the team that you're managing. What that season of life really looked like.
Well, I tell you what's wonderful is if you can build your own team. And one of the things I've shared with people who get into new positions, and often we inherit a team.
Hmm.
And when we inherit a team and we come in, we've taken the place of someone that's been in the position previously. The team has got big expectations for you as the new boss, and you for them. But I always encourage people to really try to do all they can to make that team their own. And if they can't, help those people move on, because there's nothing like having a team of people that are your team. And I will tell you, when I was senior VP of marketing, I had just such a top notch, amazing group of VPs. And I look back now, and this is okay, I'm getting just a little touch of bragging, but the guy that runs the company right now, Raj Subramanian, yeah, he used to work for me in marketing.
Wow.
Some of my folks have just retired. The guy that ran Ground Ops, Henry Mayer, just retired, worked for me. The guy that runs FedEx office, Brian Phillips, worked for me. Um, these team members, and I've got others that are in senior positions. They were, they sometimes the men too. Oh, I got to work for this woman. I made sure that the way I developed my men was
Mm,
very strong. I wanted men to understand that they weren't doing everything that they could do. I mean,
okay.
sometimes I think that men are so competitive, and they've been
Yeah.
sort of taught to be competitive, and they forget what collaboration and teamwork looks like.
Mm,
They forget about the benefits of actually, taking time to get with others and work out business problems, as opposed to, I know the answer, let me go charge in and get that. And
mm.
so I really like to think that I helped develop some of the best leaders in the company.
Yeah.
That's sort of one of my greatest, I guess, sources of pride. And I don't mean to be prideful, but if I
No,
had
but
anything to look
yes.
back on and say what a blessing, is that I worked with some fantastic people, and they are doing some great work now.
So we're talking a little bit about mentoring here. I'm hearing that. Did you ever have a mentor, Laurie, who really poured into you or offered advice kind of along the way?
Well, I think we all have sort of mentors. I'd love to say I had one, that I had
Mhm.
this one really strong woman, but I really did not. I had one fellow who I worked for 11 years, and it was interesting. He was tough, and people said, "How do you work for that guy? I don't know how you work for him."
There's always that one guy, right? There or
Yes,
gal.
it is. And I learned more working for him than I would have worked for, the perfect mentor leader, because I learned that you can still get things done. And in his case, he would come in with these grandiose ideas. And if I had gone and executed the way he had sort of told me to do, I'd probably gotten fired. So I had to learn to take what I knew he ultimately wanted to have happen, the
Mhm.
goal, And I had to figure out a plan and bring it back to him, present it to him and say, okay, you said this, but how about this? And get him to buy into it. And so that's basically how I learned to work for him. And he loved me. He loved he had confidence in me, and
Nice.
eventually sort of stopped telling me exactly how to do everything, and
Mm.
actually started asking me, what would be the plan. So yeah, it's interesting. Sometimes you can actually learn a lot from what not to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Was there ever a key piece of advice maybe that really stuck with you during your career? Something that really just rung true to you?
If I had anything that, if you said, Laura, you get one minute and there's only one thing you can say,
Mhm.
the one thing that I would tell people is that we all want to live in the present. We want to, I always say one day at a time, and, get through today and make today important and make today worth it. But it is so very important to project into the future.
Mm.
And sometimes people have trouble envisioning a future. They
Yeah,
just have trouble figuring out what their goal. And
yeah.
so here's what I tell folks is pretend like it's 5 years from now and you have accomplished all of your goals, all of the goals that you were setting out to accomplish right this minute.
Mhm.
You've done it. And in fact, you're having a party. There's champagne, there's balloons, there's friends,
All the
there's
works.
food. We got the spread. We are celebrating. The question is, what are we celebrating? Define it. Get specific about what success looks like in the future. Now,
Mhm.
once you can define what your goals are and what would be that celebration, you back up from there. Well, if that's 5 years in the future, then I have 5 years to get there. What do I need to do this year, next year, and the next year? And if we can set realistic goals to get to that place,
Yeah.
then we can make it. We
What
can
what all
accomplish
can we
it.
accomplish, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. And things will change and we may never get to that party. It may be a different party that we end
Mhm.
up
Sure.
celebrating, but we had a plan. And that
That's
was what's so important, is that we had a plan.
so true. That's so true. Kind of flip side to the coin of having a mentor, but in your leadership positions, it sounds like some of these men you really did try to pour into too and pass on some of your knowledge to your team members. Was that important to you? Did you make time to do that?
Well,
Or did you
you
lead
know,
by example, you know?
well, certainly you would lead by example. And, I think folks that know me would say that I did try to always set a very high bar
Mm,
for but integrity, for making sure that people were treated fairly, for people were given the opportunities to do. But I think to your point about mentoring, that's very specific.
mm,
That's very um, specific to the individual. And so if you commit to being a mentor, you're committing to get to know that person and listen. You're committing to hear how that person is experiencing life. And I love mentoring. And so I did a lot of mentoring when I was at FedEx, and I made myself available. So to the extent that I could squeeze people into my calendar, I was available. And I had, maybe I would almost call them some favorites, because I had some folks that I had known from the time that they had first come to the company, and they meant so much to me. And I just, so you kind of move from being a mentor to also being a champion. And I would become that person's champion, because it's
I love
important
that.
to have somebody in your court. I've often said, these conversations that happen in the hallway, over the water cooler, at lunch,
Yeah.
and they'll talk about you. Yes, they're talking about you. Well, what are they saying? What are the words they're using to describe you? And so, to the extent that I could help these young leaders think about their brand and their brand attributes and how they were being thought of, and help them develop out a better personal brand.
Mm,
That was one of my commitments, and it
oh,
still
I
is
love
to
that.
this day.
And we touched on a few minutes ago, Laurie, that you are a mother. And talk to us. A lot of our listeners may can really relate to that balancing act of raising family, juggling your career. Would you be willing to share how you were able to find that kind of home work life balance?
Well, and I've asked myself many times, would I change anything? If
Mm,
I could go back, what would I change?
mm,
And it's a tough one. It's very tough, because when you make that commitment to a career, you're all in.
mm,
And yes, the world has changed, and management and your bosses are more understanding when your child's sick. I mean, I can remember I was getting on a plane to go to Hong Kong, and I had a big speech I was giving over there, and my team that was going with me had already left the day before, and my son got sick that night. I mean, he
mm.
was running a fever. He was probably about
Oh, that's
a
so
year
sad.
old. And I just, I'm sorry, I'm not going. I'm not going to Hong Kong and leaving my 1 year old with a fever. So there was always a little bit of that, where we know that we've got to have that flexibility and who comes first. But it was so important to have a work life balance. And for me, it was very unusual back then, but my husband quit his job and stayed home with our kids.
Okay.
And that was when my son was born. He's now
Yeah.
27, so it's been a few years. And what my husband was able to do is develop a second career. And he's still
Wow.
in that career. He is a day trader. He taught
Yeah.
himself how to trade stocks, and he's done so well with that. He loves it.
Wow.
He's fantastic at it. People call him
Mhm.
all the time wanting, trading advice, which he's very hesitant to give. But he's had a very successful career and was able to be there for the kids. And I know not
That's
everybody can
great.
do that, but for
Yeah.
me, that
That
was the
worked.
magic.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And that's what it is. It's just finding what works. Um, Kind of share with us now. We've gone into kind of your VP roles and senior marketing too. Kind of at the end of your time with FedEx, what were your main, roles and responsibilities there?
FedEx has got to be one of the greatest companies in the world. And I mean, it's hard to imagine that it's a company that's still run by its founder, but he's still
Mm.
there and he's still very active. And I was very blessed to be there through so many years of great growth and excitement. We literally invented things, and that was
Yeah.
what was so much fun.
So
And
cool.
we were the first company that actually put up an actual website on the internet that did something. People put things on the internet and they were like pages. Well, ours actually, you could put in a tracking number and track your package. And we were like, a world sensation because we'd actually
Yes.
an application on the internet. And those were fun, fun days. So as sort of got towards the end of, I didn't really think about retiring at age 57. I had not set a goal for that. I thought, well, maybe about 65. Well, no, at age 57, I had I had done a lot. I had accomplished a lot. And all of a sudden, an opportunity came up to take what they called a buyout. And
Hmm.
to do the buyout, I had to find a way to combine my job with someone else's. And I very cleverly figured out how to do that with another senior VP job.
Oh, here
That
comes that efficiency skill again, right?
right. And it took a lot of it took a lot of heart to do this
Yeah.
because I have to tell you, I loved my job.
Mhm.
I loved my people. I loved my career. But I also realized that I had an opportunity to do something else and to do it before I was too old to do it.
Yeah.
And two of my coworkers, two women, one was a VP and one was a director. The three of us decided that we would start our own company once we retired, and we would get into consulting, marketing consulting, which we did.
Yeah.
And we've never looked back. And so here's
Next chapter, isn't it?
the last thing I'll say about it is this. I had one whole year to say goodbye. Most
Oh,
people don't do that.
man.
Most people retire and, 2 weeks later, it's the cake and good. We'll see you later. I had an
Mhm.
entire year. It was, I called it my farewell tour. So I got to say goodbye over and over and over again that last year. And I was
Oh,
really ready to go, but it was a
oh.
fabulous career and a wonderful, wonderful time. And it was time to turn it over to some new folks.
I can imagine after so many years of being on the clock, if you will, because those in that type of leadership position, you don't just clock out right at 5, right? You're thinking about things and sending emails well into the night, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Was there a transition period though, after you had decided to retire?
It was a bit of a shocker. I tell people that are getting ready to retire, especially from a job like that, to prepare for the shock about 30 days out. About 30 days out, I was one day sitting and thinking, what is missing? Something is different today. And I realized the ticker tape that runs constantly
Yeah.
in your head when you have one of these corporate jobs, because you're always thinking about the next meeting,
Oh,
the
yeah.
next trip, the next budget, the next business problem. It's just running constantly. So it stopped. All of a sudden, boom! It was done, and what a wonderful and freeing feeling to have that ticker tape stop. So I've been very fortunate. I'm on two public boards which keeps me very involved in the business world. I'm the chair of the University of Memphis Board of Visitors, which keeps me in our local business world, which I love. I'm the executive director of the Economic Club of Memphis, which seems a little crazy for a marketing person, but it's been a really fun part-time job and been able to keep me in the community as well. So retiring is not really retiring, it's changing. And it's been very, very rewarding to now be able to spread my knowledge and hopefully positive energy and influence through many other things. And I think too, this, that my daughter-in-law and my son are both starting new businesses.
Yes.
And both of them are about to open. Shelby Jewel she's already got an active store, but she's moving to a new location. And then my son, Will, has a bike store he'll be opening within the next month called Ladding Speed Shop. So that's been fun to kind of be able to mentor them and
I
help them
bet you're
out.
pouring into them as well, right?
That's been great. I've
Oh,
loved it. I've loved everything about that.
so it sounds like the time now that you're spending these days in the here and now, you're really kind of um, pouring back into these other nonprofits, boards, and using these lessons that you've gathered over the course of your career and trying to pass it on, it sounds like.
You know, so going back to your very first question, you asked
Hmm.
me a few minutes ago, we started with where did you start? I have to say this, Anna, I'm humbled by it all. I'm
Mm.
humbled by my humble beginnings. I'm humbled by the fact that I was able to have such a fabulous career. And I feel unbelievably blessed by all of it.
Mm.
And there is no greater reward now than to give back to others. And some of the reward is seeing the give back that has already happened,
Mm.
but there's still so much that is there to give.
Right. Right.
And so to me, that's what it's all about.
Mm.
Some people use the term paying it forward, and paying it forward is a little bit difficult for me because that implies you kind of know what's coming. I don't really know what I'm paying forward, but I know this: I'm going to keep paying backwards. I'm going to keep paying for the blessings that
Yeah.
I've already received,
Mm.
and hope that something that I can give, something that I can teach, something that I can share will inspire a young woman or a young man or an older woman or an older man.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Discrimination
Anybody.
here. We're all still on the journey, and to inspire and to try to be that encouragement to get them through. And I'll give you one little quick example. I recently went through a process of hiring a new board member. And one of the folks that we interviewed did not receive the job,
Mm.
and she called for follow up, which I love that. I love when somebody says, "Tell me what I could have done better."
Yeah.
But here was an
Learn.
extremely seasoned, I mean, as seasoned as I am individual. Typically, when you go for board seats, you're retired, you're older. But she was not done learning.
Hmm.
She wanted to know, what could I do better? How could I've been more inspiring? How could I have been more strategic? What could I have done better? And by virtue of her asking, she got a good dose of what she needed to know that I
Yeah.
think will help her very much in her next interview.
Mm.
So to that point, we are never too old to receive
I was
mentoring.
literally just about to ask that to you. I mean, it's no matter what age, 2 or 200, right? We can never stop learning. Always something to learn. And I kind of ironically back to what we were talking about this morning, that quote that I heard, I just thought it rung so true to what we were probably going to touch on today, that when you have something that you've learned, it's important to teach, right? And when you receive something, it's also equally important to kind of give back. Um, some of our listeners may be in a season of life now, Laurie, that are making a change, maybe taking on that next chapter. Maybe that's a new job or a new chapter of life, and thinking about how are they going to fill their time, um, and make the most of it. What advice would you kind of leave with our listeners as we wrap up our time together?
If you have the opportunity to follow a passion, follow it. I say that because there is no job that you will do better than one you love.
Mm.
We can all do a job. I can do accounting work. I can do accounting work. I can tick and tie those numbers, but I'm not going to love it with passion. But you tell me that I'm going to be, helping put together a marketing campaign, and I will light up like a light bulb and get excited and motivated and be passionate about it and be excellent at it. So to the extent that we can gear our lives and our careers towards things that give us passion, and with one small caveat, there are times when we are going to have to do work we don't want to do. It's just, we don't have a choice. Make that work your own. Don't go into a job saying, I don't want to do this. I'm not going to like it. No, go into the job and say, this may not be the thing that I want to do, but I'm going to make this the best I can make it. I'm going to make it my own. I'm going to improve it. I'm going to put my mark on it. And when I leave it, it will be better because I was there. And by the way, sometimes you end up finding out you like it.
I love that. Oh, I love it. Everything's a stepping stone, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Laurie, this time together has been so wonderful. You've been such a light and an inspiration today. I appreciate your words more than you know, and I know our listeners do too. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I've loved being with you, and I hope it has been helpful in some way. It's been a blessing.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Her Town. If you're with us on Facebook, make sure to hit that like and follow button. And if you're on YouTube, make sure to hit subscribe for more amazing stories like the one you heard here today. I'm looking forward to seeing you back here next Tuesday. And until next time, I'm Annabelle.